back in the late 90s, you wrote a book called The Synergy Trap. Tell us about what that book is about.
I told you about what the journey was. So that was sort of the outcome of the journey. And first, M&A is different. M&A is a different capital investment. That was a big thrust of the book. What's different about M&A? You pay it all up front before you even get a chance to touch the wheel. So that cost of capital clock starts ticking right on day one, whether you want it to or not. So that you can't divert the funding, you can't stop the funding, you paid it, and it gets paid all up front. So it's just that makes it unique. The second thing was, once you pay a premium that is more than anybody else in the world thought that set of assets was worth, you've created a brand new business performance problem that not only didn't exist before, nobody expected it. So it's a bit of a shock to the system. And if you allow me, if I could just give a quick example of what that means. If you looked at a company that had, let's just say, $40 million of net operating profit after tax, and let's just capitalize that at 10%. So it has $400 million of what we would call current operations value. In other words, if the business never got any better, it's worth $400 million. But it's trading in the market at $1 billion. So that must mean there's $600 million of future growth value, or expectations of growth already built into the company. If you go ahead and pay a 30% premium for that $1 billion company, or $300 million, where does that $300 million go? Your current performance hasn't changed. So you're layering on $300 million more to that $600 million that was already there. So now you have $900 million of growth value. That's a shock to the system. And that's the show. Like for me, there's an old saying, culture eats strategy for breakfast, or things like that. Finance, that's the show right there. It's the performance challenge you're setting up. And then the third is, once you start doing the integration that's so essential to making a deal work, you jack up the exit costs. It's very expensive to unwind mistakes. So M&A is a very different capital investment. And then once you see that, well, then the traps just sort of become really obvious, like a failure to understand the performance trajectory that's already built into the target company, and yours, quite frankly. So what's the growth that's already expected? So if you don't understand that, it's going to be very hard to think about synergies, which are gains over those standalone performance expectations. And then when you get to synergies, it's a failure to think about them in competitive and financial terms. They don't come for free. Every synergy has a cost to get it. And if you think about synergies in competitive terms, you have to say, well, what am I doing differently? Like, how am I going to compete better, whether it's on the revenue side or the cost side? So, it begs the question, and it's if but for the deal, what is it exactly because of that deal that allows me to be a better competitor, serve my customers better, et cetera? And then finally, do I fully understand the promises that I'm making? This premium's a shock to the system. And so just telling them, well, we'll get $1 billion of synergies sometime over the next 3 years, that's not satisfying to investors. And you can see why that would lead to kind of negative market reactions, and we can talk more about that. So that was really the thrust of The Synergy Trap. Very descriptive book versus The Synergy Solution, which is a very prescriptive book based on the challenge. And we start out with that as the first chapter, is what's the problem we're solving for?